I've just got my copy of Autistic Thinking in the Life of the Church by our very own Stewart Rapley. And I have to say, I'm rather proud of this inside page because it says forward by Nick Bundock. Why don't you give our viewers just a little bit of information about why you've written this book, Stewart?
Where the book goes really is into the space of looking at the way in which autistic thinking affects attitudes towards God, and faith and prayer and reading the Bible and so on. There's a lot of work being done around the whole topic of autism, in terms of its social dimensions and the difficulties and that people have who are on the spectrum, in a kind of big social context. And I get that. And also the sensory experience, loud noises, bright lights and so on, can be difficult for some. But what really kind of troubled me over the years is that the way in which I was thinking about my faith didn't seem to chime with the way in which the faith was presented to me in church and talked about by others in the congregation. And so, I kind of wondered whether it was just me being an oddball and didn't get it or whatever. Actually, there's quite a body of evidence that suggests that because autistic people think about things differently, then they're going to think about faith differently. And there's not been a lot of writing about that and the actual content of what we do in church, as opposed to the environment within which we do it. So that's what I've looked at.
What you seem to be saying is that there's been a lot of almost research or interest in what you might call the environmental factors that make perhaps life more challenging for autistic people. But what you've really been doing is looking at how autistic people process their theology or their understanding of God, how they receive that information, and then how they kind of outwork the information that has been gathered. When did you first realize, you personally, that you were an autistic person? When did that realization come?
Before I could put a name and a label and an explanation to anything, it was always very clear to me that I was different. So I, for example, at school, I could cope very well in a structured classroom environment. Put me in the playground, and I literally used to just stand around, trying to figure out what on earth's going on. So anything social, parties and anything like that, I just couldn't cope with. And then going into a work context, I was perfectly functional in a technical space, but as I got more senior, as you get older, you then get into more of the sort of politics at work, and I realised that whilst I could understand it, I couldn't really do it very well, and so a career in diplomacy was never likely to be on the cards for me. And I kept on tripping over and falling into potholes and hitting walls, and on occasions doing things that kind of got me fired, from a consultancy assignment. Now, somebody has said of political careers that they all end in failure. To some extent, consultancy assignments all go the same way. So at some point, the consultants get booted out for one reason or another. So I was always able to pick myself up and recover professionally, but there was a growing question as to why is this kind of a repeating pattern? Parallel to that, then we had some issues with one of our children at school, and then some programs on the TV came along, and it just kind of made me think, well, this looks like me. This is what's going on. So I pursued a diagnosis and got a diagnosis in my early 50s. I was 52. And that then brought together a whole bunch of questions about faith and life and so on and so forth. For me, it was a very cathartic experience. So I know there are others who don't want the labels, don't want to be labelled and so on. So diagnosis is not a kind of one size fits all approach. But for me, it was a very cathartic thing that sort of said, right, now I understand what's going on. So I can stop pushing on these doors because that's never going to work. but hang on a minute, there are some other things over here that I could try these. And so it was quite a sort of release and quite hopeful, quite a sort of aha, now I get what's going on experience for me. And I like understanding these things and so on and so forth. So it was good. And I actually pursued the diagnosis.
And that's really interesting. Thank you so much, Stuart. I mean, I just want to plug the book, Autistic Thinking in the Life of the Church by Stewart Rapley. Where's this available?
Either on the SCM website and or Amazon have it.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us for our online broadcast today, Stuart. It's been great to hear from you.